Okay. Hi, Bonnie. So excited
Hello.
to talk to you today. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to hopping on with you so much.
Great. I have a few questions to ask you about immersion. I have a couple of them are just my own questions, and a few of them are I asked people if they had anything they'd want to ask you, and so I
Oh,
have a
perfect.
couple questions that were submitted
Great.
for me. Okay, so the first question is, who would you say immersion is for? Who is it tailored to? Who are you looking at that might be interested in it and taking immersion?
Yeah, I think about this person a lot because for me, the moment that I realized what surface pattern design was, and for me, the first time I realized this, it was more in the sense of fabric design. I remember looking at fabric and, like we all do, and then all of a sudden it really dawned on me that this was like someone's job was to create artwork for products, out of their house probably. And I was like blown away at the thought of being able to do something so creative for my career. And so for me, the person who's really interested in this has some big goals. So create they want to have a creative career. They want to make creativity their career. And they also want the freedom. So for me, doing this as my career has really just built in so much freedom into my life because it's something that you can work on from anywhere in the world. And so for some people that means they can, travel and work on it, which is definitely a plus. But for me, it meant that I could live in a really tiny town where I wanted to live. So both of my parents and my husband's parents both live in this tiny town where there are not a lot of jobs necessarily. And I'm able to do this from here and raise my children with both of our parents in the same town. And that's incredible. Being able to do whatever you want to do from wherever you want to do it. And then I also knew that I knew that I wasn't a 9 to 5 kind of person. I knew that I wanted to be in charge of my own schedule and work whenever I wanted to work and stay at home with my kids when they were little. And doing this and having this creative career has allowed all of those things. And so that, like, someone who's really excited about that is the perfect person for immersion.
Yeah, I can relate to that actually quite a bit because I think that's what I was looking for is that creative career and also the flexibility because I have little ones. So
Yeah.
I don't want to go 9 to 5. I don't want to go back to 9 to 5. That's just not in my on
It's
my radar. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so a couple a little more specific about the course itself. I had a couple questions come
yeah.
in. So how long will students have access to the course in the community?
Yeah. So the course is 8 weeks long, and we do it very much together. So, week one, module one drops. I do 3 live Q&As during that week, and we work through it very much together. And then in the second week, module two drops. So the actual course is 8 weeks long. But if you enroll in the course, you get lifetime access to the year that you purchase. So if you enroll in the 2021 course, you'll have lifetime access to the 2021 course. So, 3 years from now, you can come back in and pop into the lessons. If you want to, I always like to also say, if you enroll in the 2021 course and you decide that you want the 2022 course, you're now considered an alumni, and alumni get invited to retake the new course at 75% off. So a huge discount for alumni if they want to come back and retake the new one, but they always have the one they bought in their library. And then we offer support. So a lot of support. So the support team is 18 people big this year, which I'm so excited about. And so we offer support for 12 weeks.
Okay.
And so after that, you still have access to the community, but our support team is on pretty much full blast for 12 weeks.
Right. Well, and so and a follow-up question to the Q&A, someone was asking if are they the same time? Like are the Q&As at the same time every week or does the schedule kind of change?
The Q&As are going to be, because I want to create, like a ritual, like everyone
Yeah.
knows they don't have to check. So they're at the same time, 3
Okay.
times a week. Yeah.
And here was another question. Same person asked, are there any details of what's in the student package?
Oh, okay. So the student packet. So everyone who enrolls in the course gets a student packet.
Right.
And I love surprises.
Yeah, I
I
had a
love
feeling that you might
surprises.
say
I
that.
layer in surprises into the whole process. But what comes in the student packet are some surprises. And there is something that is to be opened at the beginning of every module. So we open what it is together at the beginning of every module, and it's something that will help you in that module.
Right. Okay. So how in depth do you go into licensing during the course? Like, do you have pointers for licensing and wholesaling? Do you cover that in immersion?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of go through the modules. So there's 6 modules that get released over 8 weeks. So module number 1 is Intro to Illustrator. So about half of the students will be opening up this program for the very first time, and about half of them will be more proficient in it. So we start at the very basics and quickly get everyone up to the same speed. Module number 2 is Illustrator Mastery. So by the end of module 2, you're going to have such a solid foundation in Adobe Illustrator. The week number 3 is implementation week, so that you have plenty of space and time to practice what you've learned. We didn't used to have implementation weeks, and it was like,
Yeah,
it
I
was,
think that was a great addition because there was not one the year I took it, and I think that
yeah,
was really helpful last year. Yeah.
so good, perfect. That's been
Yeah.
the overwhelming feedback, is like,
Yeah.
thank you for implementation weeks. So implementation weeks are not a break. The students are hard at work, they have their head down, and the support team is probably harder at work that week than any other
Yeah.
week, because we're
Yeah.
really trying to implement what we've been learning. Module 4 is Repeating Patterns Pro. So you will learn all the different types of creating repeating patterns. Now that you know how to create artwork and get it into illustration, you start creating repeating patterns. Module 5 is on collection creation. So now that you know how to design repeating patterns, how do you put together a collection that's cohesive and consistent and really stands out from the crowd? And then we have our second implementation week, so that you have time to work on your collection. Module 5 is on licensing your artwork. So this is all about building a portfolio, pitching your work, and the ins and outs of licensing. So what to look for in a licensing contract, who licenses, like what companies license, how to
Right.
get in touch with them, who to get in touch with, what to say, when to say it, when to follow up, what if you hear yes, what if you hear no, what if you hear nothing, all the things. And then module 6 is on creative entrepreneurship. And so this is the one that really will teach you how to build a brand and how to build a sustainable business from the skills that you now have. It's probably one of my favorites, and we talked some about accounting and the legal aspects of building
Right.
a brand and business too. So that's the
Right.
course.
Great. Thank you. I don't know if you can hear that my dog is snoring. So if you hear snoring, it's my dog over here. Okay. Okay, good.
That's very cute.
It feels really loud to me. Okay, another question. I would guess this might be your most asked question. I don't know. Is there really room for me?
Yeah, I love that question. So shall I tell the backstory to that phrase?
Sure.
There's room for you is, there are certain things that I say so much that my community has deemed them Bonnieisms.
Yes.
And so there's room for you is a Bonnieism.
When I almost feel funny asking some of these questions because I feel like I know
Well, you
what
know,
your answer is, but someone else might not know. So
you have probably heard me talk about it so many times. So the reason that this really has resonated with me is because someone told me the same thing at the beginning of my journey. So I started a blog in 2009, and I was just the new kid on the block. I was so green, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was emailing all these like super high profile bloggers, and be like, "Hi, I'm here," and they were all so kind. And one who was one that I looked up to the most, I'll never forget, responded to me and said, like, welcome, there's room for you. And it affected my, like, what an incredible like permission to give someone, because it's true, there is always room for new talent.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I think happens in surface pattern design is that we all live in our own kind of informational bubbles, and so many of us follow other
Yeah.
artists and designers, and so it looks saturated. But I want you to like go out and see how many people in your day-to-day life has
Yeah.
ever heard of surface pattern design. Like
So true.
nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody even knows that it's like a viable career option. And the other thing is that um, if I had a student before the pandemic go into Target with a notepad, and she tried to write down everything that she saw that had like like licensing on it, so an art print or a repeating pattern. And I can't remember how many hundreds of things she wrote down
Yeah.
before she just had to leave. And that's just one store. And so if you think about the opportunities with companies all over the world who are, and new companies coming every day, that genuinely want to partner and collaborate with artists to put artwork on their products. So I would actually say it's the opposite of saturated. There's like a real need for new artwork, and opportunities everywhere. You know, there are some opportunities that like everyone wants or knows about, but when you
Mhm.
really get into the industry and you realize
Yeah.
how many companies and different niches you can get in, it's incredible. Um, yeah, so that's my
Yeah.
answer to that. Like,
No, that's a
absolutely.
good answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, there's another question I thought of actually when I was listening to lesson 2 yesterday, and you were talking about the stages
Hmm.
of surface design. I was wondering, do you find with your students, is there a certain stage that most people seem to get stuck? I was wondering.
Stuck. That's a great question. I'm not sure that people get stuck in any particular stage, but I think there's one stage that takes the longest.
Yeah, maybe that's a better way to put it. Like, is there a stage where, yeah, that you're kind of at the longest, like hardest to move on to?
Yeah, so that's stage number two. And stage number two is really when you are exploring all of the different types of artwork creation and like experimenting with all of them. And before you leave stage number two, you should have made at least 100 patterns, and be coming out with a style. And
Yeah.
so this stage takes the longest. For me, it took a year of creating artwork. I created over 100 patterns before I was ready to build a portfolio, and before I was really ready to like see my style and kind of own that style. And so I think it's one that takes the longest, but it's also the most important. The
Yeah.
most important not to rush, and the most important to like really sit in it, and most importantly to commit to consistently working on it. So this is the stage where some people will fall kind of to the wayside, like they'll not work on it for 2 weeks or something. And that's the biggest difference between the people who are successful and the people who are not successful, is simply consistency. Like,
Hmm.
do you consistently work at it, or do you let weeks go by and kind of come back for a little bit, and you're just not going to see the progress that you need to see if you're not consistently making at least a little bit of effort, which is why I talk about doing at least
One
one thing
thing a
a
day.
day.
Yeah.
One thing a day to move you closer, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes, but you've got to get yourself trained and in the habit to consistently chip away at it.
Yeah, it really feels like just kind of putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like even if you're not sure what direction you're going in, it's just like
Incremental
keep
progress.
working. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I was wondering, so I took immersion in 2019, and this will be, I guess, your 4th year
Yep.
teaching. I was wondering, how has the course changed over the, I mean, I can kind of see a little bit, but I'm wondering how has the course changed over the years?
Yeah, well, it's been re-recorded for one. And so my process has been refined, and then we survey students every year. And so we don't just do that for fun. We use the
Yeah.
feedback to really refine the course and the process. That's where the implementation weeks came in, because
Yeah.
people were saying we jumped from learning to creating collections too fast and I couldn't keep up. And so we kind of built in and refined that. And of course, anytime there's new industry knowledge or tweaks
Mhm.
in Illustrator, we add that to the course. So I think one of the things that makes this course really special and effective is that when I learned, I'm self-taught. So I took an enormous amount of time to learn all of this in 2010. Nobody was teaching it. And I very much piecemealed together things from all over the corners of the world. And I wasted a lot of time learning things that I didn't actually need to learn,
Yeah.
because I didn't know better. I was just had nobody guiding me. And so one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this is because you're going to learn everything that you need to learn, and you're not going to learn anything that you don't need to learn. Like, I think sometimes people over like they give you everything in the kitchen sink, but you just needed the kitchen sink. You
Yeah.
needed the things that will actually, and I think that's also why I have so many students who have been to art school. Like, they've paid
Mhm.
50, $60,000 to go to art school, and they've told me this seems incredible to me, but they tell me time and time again that they learned what they actually needed to learn to make a career out of this in this 8-week class.
Yeah. It's very practical,
Yeah,
practical instruction. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, then another question, I was kind of wondering what are your plans for immersion in the future? Like, what do you think? I'm thinking about people who might be considering signing up this year, but might not feel like it's the right time and think like, I'll do it next year. I
Mhm.
don't know. What would you say to them? I mean, I would say do it, but do it now. What would
I
you
mean,
say?
this is my favorite thing that I do, so I intend to continue doing it. Um, Although, you never know what's going to happen. We learned that this
Yeah,
past year.
that's
Like, you never know. Um, I
that's
think the thing that I would actually more so say though is what, like, where do you want to be in a year from now? And time is money. Like, people piecemeal together their education all the time, and it's absolutely possible. But at some point in my career, I realized how valuable it is to get the correct training. And so I personally spend more on my own education every single year. It just keeps going up because I understand the value of just getting the right guidance. And if there is an expert, if there's expertise, like, why would I struggle through it if it was a possibility? So time is money. The quicker you can learn what you need to learn, the quicker you can turn around and start creating income from it too. So yeah,
yeah.
I know it's a hard decision for a lot of people. Um, but a lot of people also share kind of that. And so I would also say go over to the Celebrate page. So we have a Celebrate page that shares stories, and you'll hear from over 200 alumni
Yeah,
about
that's great.
their stories through coming through this course. And a lot of them will share that they kind of waffled on the decision, or they weren't sure at the beginning. Jay shared that with us,
Yeah.
and Jenna this week in the stories at the end of the
Yeah,
lessons.
those were both great calls. Very inspiring.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So if you want to read stories, that link you can probably share is
Okay. Yeah.
surfacedesigntribe.com/celebrate.
Yeah. Yes, that's a great suggestion. It's helpful to hear from other students
It is, because
and yeah.
I can talk all day, and I feel like probably it's like, well, yeah, it's your course. Of course
Yeah.
you think it's great. So I love sending people to just hear, like, don't even take it from me. Like, go talk to the students who've actually experienced it, and decide for yourself, because it's not the right course for everyone.
Right.
Uh, it is the right course for a lot of people who want to make a career out of this knowledge, or a side hustle, or whatever.
Yeah, no, and that's why I wanted to talk do this call with you today, because I feel similarly that I could talk about it and talk about immersion all the time, but it might be helpful for someone who isn't already in your community to not just hear it from me, but see you
Yeah.
and hear from you a little bit too.
I love
So
that.
thank you. Well, thanks for doing the call today. But that's all the questions I had for right now. But I
Well,
think
thank
that'll be
you so
good.
much for having me. I'm an open book. If anybody has any follow-up questions, just let me know and we can get an answer to them.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Thank you, Bonnie. I'll
Thank
say bye
you.
now. I'm sure
Bye.
you got a lot to go do. All right. Thank you.